What if one of today's most dangerous, high-stakes rivalries could literally be traced back nearly 4,000 years? Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're embarking on a journey through time to unravel a profound mystery. We're looking closely at the modern conflict between Israel and Iran, and we have to ask, is this bitter geopolitical struggle a purely modern phenomenon, or is it actually the culmination of an ancient biblical family feud?
Now, some believe the roots of the Israel-Iran conflict began with a single monumental decision made by Abraham. But is that really true? To find out, we need to play the role of historical detectives. We've got to ask ourselves, is this a story rooted strictly in history? Is it a matter of religion, modern politics? Or maybe it's a complex tapestry of all three? This region's history is incredibly layered. It's been written over millennia by empires, faiths, and modern nation-states. So to untangle the truth, we'll explore the biblical narrative, ancient history, and modern geopolitics to figure out exactly how these events became so deeply connected in the minds of so many.
Section 1. Two families, one tradition.
So, to understand the religious perspective here, we really must look at the foundational biblical setup. Abraham and his wife Sarah waited many, many years for a promised child. It's a classic story of anticipation and ultimately of a profound family fracture. As time passed and Sarah remained unable to have children, the biblical account states that she offered her servant Hagar to Abraham. And that single decision, it set a monumental sequence of events into motion. First, Hagar gives birth to a son, Ishmael. But later, Sarah herself miraculously gives birth to Isaac, the son through whom the text claims God's covenant would actually continue. Talk about overlapping lines of succession and immense tension. Eventually, as you might guess, this family tension reached a breaking point. Hagar and Ishmael left Abraham's household entirely, journeying out on their own, while Isaac remained behind with his father. For millions across the world, this specific separation marks the genesis of two completely distinct family lines that would go on to shape the history and the borders of the Middle East. It's a powerful symbol, deeply embedded in both biblical and Islamic traditions, though it's worth keeping in mind that modern historians view this more as an allegory rather than documented historical fact. Still, this ancient parting of ways became the theological bedrock upon which much of the region's later identity would be built.
Section 2. The Great Persian Twist. According to Jewish tradition, the Israelites descended directly from Isaac. Conversely, many Arab traditions trace their ancient ancestry back to Ishmael. It seems like a perfect ancient binary, right? So, where exactly does modern-day Iran fit into this biblical family tree? I mean, if the lines of Isaac and Ishmael defined the ancient Middle East, which side of the family claims the massive nation of Iran?
Well, here lies the great historical twist. They don't fit into that tree at all. Ancient Persia, which is modern-day Iran, was emphatically not descended from Ishmael in the biblical narrative. They were completely separate. Instead of branching off from Abraham's fractured family, Persia developed entirely on its own. They rose from the earth to become one of the most formidable empires in human history, possessing an Indo-European lineage and cultural heritage that is entirely distinct from the Semitic lineage of both the Israelites and the Arab tribes. In fact, ancient texts completely subvert this myth of a timeless feud. The Persian king, Cyrus the Great, is actually celebrated in the Bible as a savior to the Jewish people. Why? Because after conquering Babylon, he allowed Jewish exiles to return to Jerusalem and rebuild their sacred temple. Just let that sink in for a moment. Originally, Persia was not an enemy of the Jewish people. They were allies. They were protectors, facilitating one of the absolute most crucial moments of survival in ancient Jewish history.
Section 3. Modern Geopolitical Reality. So, if ancient texts don't mandate this rivalry, and ancient Persia was a protector rather than a persecutor, what exactly happened? Well, the modern conflict between Israel and Iran developed much, much later. Historians actually trace the true origin of this rivalry directly to the massive political and ideological shifts of the 20th century. Before 1979, Israel and Iran actually maintained a pretty quiet, cooperative strategic relationship. But everything changed dramatically and abruptly after the Iranian Revolution of 1979. That's when Iran's new leadership adopted a fiercely anti-Israel stance as a core pillar of their new ideology. Almost overnight, a totally new geopolitical chessboard was drawn. Israel began to view Iran's rapidly growing military power and eventually its nuclear ambitions as existential security threats. Over the decades, this rivalry expanded outward, moving into the shadows.
Now, it's fought across borders through proxy conflicts, highly secretive intelligence operations, devastating cyber attacks, and a constant, tense shifting of regional alliances. Today, both of these powerful nations compete aggressively for dominance and influence across the entire Middle East, which fundamentally alters global security.
The reality we really need to grasp here is that historians universally explain the current rivalry through these tangible 20th century power struggles. It's driven by modern politics, by real-time security concerns, by regional dominance, and strict modern ideologies. It is absolutely not, as the historical record clearly shows, the inevitable result of some biblical family feud. The battle lines drawn today are traced by modern statecraft, not by ancient bloodlines.
Section 4. Separating history from belief.
While many of us instinctively connect today's headlines to the ancient story of Abraham, understanding both perspectives is absolutely essential. From a religious viewpoint, the story of Abraham's family serves as a really powerful symbol, an ancient allegory for divisions that shaped later traditions. Religion heavily influences how millions internalize this conflict today. But from a purely historical perspective, the cold, hard reality is that the modern conflict is rooted almost entirely in the events of the 20th century. By acknowledging this, we can successfully separate ancient beliefs from the very real, very dangerous modern geopolitics playing out right now. Which leaves us with a lingering, essential question. Is history ever as simple as it first appears? When we peel back the layers of ancient myths, religious symbolism, and modern statecraft, we often find that the truth is far more intricate and far more fascinating than a single ancient decision. Thank you for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning, keep looking deeper, and never stop exploring the true roots of the world around us.